What is up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video on Lex Selects. Today we're going to be ranking the current championship managers for the 22-23 seasons from worst to best. I was thinking of doing a bit of a tier list, but there's so many managers this season who have actually not managed a single championship game, but I feel it'd be a bit unfair to really do a tier list because a lot of these managers that I'll be ranking potentially as bad or as unproven have not really, for one, had managerial experience full stop, but have never managed in the championship as well. So I thought it would be interesting just to kind of do a worst to best based on the manager's success. Some are going to be treated a bit more fairly than others, but I'm trying to make this list as fair as I can. If you guys like what you see, please do give the video a like. If it's tremendous out the channel, please do hit the subscribe button if you're not done so, as we're trying to push to 2,000 subscribers. And please also share this channel too, although that really helps as well. Let me know guys in the comments down below what would be your best and worst manager in the championship. I'll be interested to know your opinions as well. But without any further ado, let's rank every single championship manager this season from worst to best. Coming in at 24th place is Danny Schofield for Huddersfield Town. There shouldn't really be too much of a surprise there. It's simply down to the fact he's never managed a team before. He's always been an assistant manager, following in the footsteps of Bielsa and Corberan. But as a first team manager, he's had 0 games as a proper first team coach slash manager. So right now, I've really got nothing to base his evidence with at the moment. So for now, Danny Schofield is going to be bottom of the list, but he could easily boost a couple of places up if he does a good job with Huddersfield. Coming in at 23rd place is John Eustace of Birmingham City. Bit similar to Schofield, he's not got a lot of experience to go home about. However, he was an interim manager when Steve McClaren got sacked from Queen's Park Rangers back in 2019. He didn't do too badly, but he didn't do too great either, to be honest. And he's been an assistant manager alongside the likes of Warburton for quite a few number of years. He also took the role of assistant manager for Republic of Ireland, did alright there, but now as a proper first team manager, not an interim coach anymore, a first team manager, not much experience at all. The only experience he's had is Kidderminster Harriers as a first team manager. Got into the playoffs in the National League North, but has never got them promoted, so poor record in the playoffs. So overall, not too impressive, unfortunately. He's going to be in 23rd. 22nd place on this list is Paul Ince. He, unlike a lot of the managers so far, he's actually got managerial experience, actually. But unfortunately, the experience has not turned out to be the most impressive. His first job, I remember it well, was when he was the manager of Blackburn Rovers. Unfortunately, he didn't do so well there. He got sacked when Blackburn Rovers were in the relegation zone. He had a couple of other jobs that he was able to try and take across as well, including the likes of Blackpool, where Blackpool were in a really dire position there. So part of it wasn't his fault, but also his lack of control didn't help either. He came into Reading ultimately to get into Survivor, and he did do that, and to be honest, I think that was the best thing he's done in his managerial career so far. But still, regardless, the Reading weren't really safe, to be honest. So I still have my doubts with Paul Ince being the first team manager for Reading this season. He's going to have to do a lot to prove me wrong. 21st place on this list is Steve Morison. One that might surprise you a little bit, but for me, he doesn't really hold a lot of experience as a first team manager at all. He's got a lot more experience in being an assistant manager, and when he was given an interim manager role for Cardiff last season, he did alright, but he didn't necessarily project Cardiff up the table like in a way for what Mick McCarthy did when he took over Neil Harris when Cardiff was struggling the season prior to that. So for me, I can't really give Steve Morison that much higher in the list, unfortunately, because I've not really seen him do enough, to be honest. But he can definitely move up the rankings. If he makes the signings integrate well and Cardiff improve as a squad, he'll definitely go up in my estimations. 20th place is Michael Beale. You may think, why is Michael Beale higher in this list than Steve Morison? Because Steve Morison has actually managed more games as a first team manager, whereas Beale has always really been an assistant manager, you know, following the roots of Steven Gerrard. But despite that, there were definitely some real good quotes from Rangers players and Villa players that he has been a really big part of their development. As a coach, he's got a lot of praise, but as a manager, I still don't know. So that's why I can't put Michael Beale any higher. I've just given him the extra benefit of the doubt of the good things he's managed to work with Steven Gerrard when you compare the likes with what Morrison has done. You know, there's really no comparison there. Michael Beale, I definitely feel, has done better in his assistant poll, but in terms of a coach, we're going to have to wait and see what he does when he is the man in charge. Coming in 19th on this is Shota Arveladze. Now, a little bit similar with a lot of these managers, who's not managed too many games in the Championship. I've looked into his previous managerial records. Maccabi Tel Aviv is definitely one of the more notable spells that he did as well, doing all right there. But even, you know, with those clubs, for me, I don't feel like the competition there is going to be as intense as it is in English football. You see, internationally or European-wise, you know, you could argue Arveladze has done a little bit more than some of the other managers we're going to see a bit later on this list. But at that level, I just personally think those managers who may not have experienced competition, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt for the fact that they have done more success in terms of the English leagues. I just think the English leagues in general are just more competitive than all those leagues, and that's probably me sounding very arrogant. That is my opinion there, and I think Arveladze, alongside with a lot of these managers low down, can most definitely prove me wrong if they have a really, really good second season in the Championship. Coming in at 18th place is Michael Appleton of Blackpool. For me, he's one that doesn't experience too much of the Championship. When he has experienced the Championship, it has been a little bit underwhelming. He's had a bit of a resurgence in his managerial career scene for what he's done at Lincoln City. Maybe this could be the start of him having a bit of a comeback in the managerial scene. But for me, he's not going to rank any higher than 18th place in my opinion. He's shortly edges out Arveladze just with the added success he's actually had with the English League, especially for what a good job he has done at Lincoln City. Coming in at 17th is Rob Edwards. This might surprise you because he's in charge of arguably one of the favourites to go up in Watford. But in terms of his Championship and League One experience, he's not got a lot of it. He's definitely put his name on the map for doing a terrific job with Forest Green, getting them promoted. You could argue that maybe Forest Green should have won League Two a lot more easier. They went for a really, really good start, and then they kind of fell away a little bit near the end of the season. They put their foot off the gas a bit. But having said that, he's done really, really well, and the only reason why he's down this low is because he's not really got experience in the Championship right now. His one title, really, is winning League Two, which is 2 leagues below for Championship. So that's the edge that he's got compared to all the other managers there. He's actually won things in England. So that's why he's number 17, but he can't really go any higher. Coming in at number 16 on the list is Liam Richardson. Now, he slightly edges Rob Edwards a little bit because he has won a lower English league as well, but this time he's won League One title. So I think a League One title slightly translates a League Two title in terms of managerial experience there. He spent 2 years with Wigan, managing to be an interim manager when they were in administration. They actually did really, really well to steady the ship. And then the season after, he did really, really well to get a really good turnaround with his Wigan squad, and to get them promoted the way they did was absolutely inspirational there. And I'll be very interested to see how he thrives in the Championship. Not too much experience in the Championship, but I definitely think got a good amount of potential there. Number 15 on this list is Vincent Kompany. Now, an unbelievable player, don't get me wrong, but as a manager, I'm still yet to see what he's going to be able to do in the Championship. A lot of these managers now are just really going into this position of the list because they've not really had Championship experience. And Vincent Kompany, despite doing, you could arguably say, maybe a little bit underwhelming job with Anderlecht, he has had a tendency of developing good young players in this Belgian league. And that's what Burnley are doing as well. And I don't think they can look at Kompany being, you know, the guy going to take Burnley back to the Premier League within the first time of asking. They definitely want to look at Kompany as more of a long-term project. A definitely ambitious appointment. And I've got to say, I hope Burnley get the best out of him and get great results from it. Number 14 on the list is Jon Dahl Tomasson. Now, the thing is, I feel like with what he's done with Malmo for winning Swedish titles and to actually get them into the Champions League, maybe I should put him a little bit higher considering who I've got slightly above him. But once again, the reason why I'm feeling a little bit apprehensive on this ranking is the fact he's not managed in the Championship. Now, he could prove me wrong and he could be a fantastic manager. But all I'm saying is that we've seen really good managers in the past, you know, winning stuff, could be somewhere else in Europe or somewhere else in another country, and they don't do so well. I look at Ivic being a good example of that, winning, doing very, very well in Maccabi Tel Aviv, for instance, there, you know, in almost in another country entirely. But unfortunately, expectations way too heavy on him. And Jon Dahl Tomasson's not got an easy job as well, especially if a lot of his players goes as well. I think another one that would definitely be moving based on what he does in the season. A lot of these managers, I feel, will be having the most movement if I were to make this list again at the end of the season based on how they do. Coming in on 13th place is Michael O'Neill. Based on what I've seen so far, he's had 3 years with Stoke and he's had 2 14th place finishes and a 15th place finish. But considering the money and the resources that they've got, I think Michael O'Neill has severely underperformed with his team. Great international manager in Northern Ireland, don't get me wrong. You know, Northern Ireland would kill to have him back, but unfortunately, I think as a club manager, I just think he's lacking a little bit. Stoke fans, let me know what you think about Michael O'Neill in the comments down below. Coming in at number 12 on the list is Paul Warne. This is probably one of the ones that most of you are going to be surprised that I've ranked so high. But Paul Warne has had 3 promotions with Rotherham from League One. You know, that in itself, to have 3 promotions in close succession is really, really good. But personally, when he's managed his Rotherham team, I just naturally would feel that Rotherham are just a team that falls short to get the consistency to survive in the Championship. And I can guarantee you, if Paul Warne were to manage a team with a vacancy, let's say he took the Huddersfield job tomorrow, I think he would do a really good job there, and won't lie, I actually think he will do quite well. I can't really put him any higher based on the amount of times he's got relegated with Rotherham as well. So to get promoted, you also need to go down, and that's exactly what Paul Warne's done as well. But I think the middle ground of this list is exactly what he deserves. Coming in at number 11, it is Russell Martin. This is based on the success he's had at this start of last season. So basically, Russell Martin has had a pretty average first season with Swansea. Started pretty badly, but then had a really, really good end. And actually, I think long term, I think Russell Martin's doing a really, really good job, and he's got something really good brewing with Swansea at the moment. And I'm even going to compare with his MK Dons days as well, where he did a pretty decent job there as well to actually make MK Dons a very competitive League One team as well. So with that, I think that just slightly edges Paul Warne, I've got to be honest. I mean, the difference there is that he's got a team, despite struggling, gets them to survive. And that's the one kind of barrier that Paul Warne needs to overcome if he were to be higher on my ranking. Coming in at number 10 is Ryan Lowe. Bit similar to Russell Martin, really, except for the fact that Ryan Lowe has come in halfway through the season. But the reason why he's so much higher for the likes of Steve Morison, who was managing, you know, a team halfway through the season as well, is that he looks like he actually improved the team when he managed them as well. You can arguably say that Steve Morison did as well, but I don't think to the extent for what Ryan Lowe has done. And for the fact that I feel long term he's got a really, really good plan in place, I definitely think that helps. And I think previously with his experience, especially for the likes of Plymouth, I think he's done a really, really good job. You know, he got a Plymouth side looking very competitive, and Plymouth really struggled and suffered actually without him, you know, leading the reign for the rest of the season. So I've got to give Ryan Lowe the credit he deserves and to put him in my 10th place. 9th place on my list is Nigel Pearson. This might surprise you because Bristol City fans, I feel like, are a little bit divided on Nigel Pearson, whether he's the right man for the job. But you've got to say, historically, you would see he got Leicester promoted to the Premier League. Yes, that squad was ridiculous for being a Championship quality squad, and definitely the ownership, you know, they were definitely benefiting off. But to still break that curse and to get Leicester back into the Premier League, where they had an over 15-year absence, was fantastic for Nigel Pearson to do. And to even get them to survive in the Premier League as well, when everything went against them, to go through that really good run after the new year, and to get them to survive. And obviously that kind of catapulted Leicester to win the title the season after. I definitely think Nigel Pearson definitely gets overlooked by that sense, and I definitely think he deserves a little bit of credit for what he's done. And I think with Bristol City, I felt like it's been the squad that's kind of let him down a little bit. You know, I think defensively they've just been too shambolic, but I think once Nigel Pearson gets a great balance of defence and attack, I actually think he can do a decent job there. Coming in number 8 is Gary Rowett. I wish I put Gary Rowett a little bit higher, but the reason why he won't be higher is because I cannot forgive him for what he did to Stoke. It was ultimately a disgrace what happened with Rowett and Stoke, really. Stoke were the outright favourites to win the Championship. You know, I know they, you know, would have had a bit of a hangover not being in the Championship for quite so long, something that I think Burnley could potentially have. But they really, really struggled, and unfortunately Rowett didn't seem to really fix things. You know, he was given so much time, and he was given a lot of patience as well. but unfortunately things just didn't work. In terms of his previous jobs that he's done as well, for likes of Birmingham, Burton, you're looking at for what he's managed to do with Derby, and now obviously with Millwall. I think with those 4 jobs, he's done a really good job. So overall, 4 good jobs, 1 poor job in around this league and level. So I think as a whole, he's done a pretty good job, and that's why he's 8th place on my list. Coming in number 7th place is Paul Heckingbottom. Now, the thing is with Paul Heckingbottom, I think some people are thinking, right, you know, with that squad, you know, Paul Heckingbottom really should have got Sheffield United in a better position. But you've got to remember, Paul Heckingbottom wasn't the manager for the whole season. Considering where Sheffield United were when he was back as first team manager, I think Heckingbottom had a really good resurgence with Sheffield United and actually almost made them remember what they are as a team. And the fact they even got them as close as they could to a playoff final, I think Heckingbottom had a really good recovery there. And I think give him a full season with new transfers and a new squad, I think he will lead Sheffield United quite well. Coming in number 6 is Mark Robins. Definitely a big contribution to him being this high up the list was because of how well he did with his Coventry side last season especially. I mean, to even get Coventry back to the Championship for the struggles they had, you know, recent years when they were down in League 2, really looking like, in terms of off-the-field issues, that they were really going to struggle to operate. But Mark Robins steadied the ship and he really gave Coventry this push that they needed as well. Obviously, their League 1 season ended due to COVID, but based on points per game, they got promoted. And then within 2 seasons of the Championship, you know, despite not looking so hot, you know, in terms of the first half of last season, second half of the season, they looked really good. And all of last season, they did really, really well. So I definitely see Mark Robins projecting Coventry to improve rather than, you know, pushing them down a little bit. And I just feel as a whole, he's done a really, really good job, a very underrated job. So that's why I think Mark Robins deserves this high ranking of 6th place. Coming at 5th place on the list, another surprise maybe, Alex Neil. So Alex Neil is managing Sunderland, you know, a newly promoted team from League 1. But I feel like as a manager, Alex Neil, what he's achieved in the Championship, I feel like really gets overlooked. You remember that, you know, these managers are up there for a reason, for the fact that they've had really, really good success, you know, either overachieving with their clubs or getting promotions. And what has Alex Neil done? He's got teams to get promoted from the Championship. He did that with Norwich when they managed to beat Middlesbrough in the playoff final and actually made them a little bit competitive in the Premier League, a lot more competitive than their recent appearances in the Premier League at least. So I think Alex Neil has done a great job, and actually with Preston as well, he gave Preston a really good competitive couple of years and actually made Preston fans believe that they could get up there as well, and the fact he really overachieved in that way. I think he did a really good job there. And then with Sunderland now, I feel like now he's broken the curse to get Sunderland back to where they were, and for them to actually feel excited about this season as well. I think it just hones into praise how good of a manager Alex Neil is. Coming in at number 4 on the list is Steve Bruce. I know people like to make fun of Steve Bruce a little bit. He's a little bit of a joke these days, but he has got 2 promotions from the Championship to the Premier League to this name. One with Birmingham and one with Hull City, of course. So Steve Bruce has done really, really well as a Championship manager. Recently, he also was Aston Villa manager and got into a playoff final. Probably should have won that final based on how good that squad was, to be honest. But regardless, he did alright to actually make Aston Villa look 10 times as better as they did, you know, when they got relegated from the Premier League, when they had Di Matteo in charge, and they really, really were struggling at one stage. And with West Brom, yes, they didn't have a great season, you know, Steve Bruce didn't really improve things, but I think with a full season, new transfers, I'm really impressed with Jed Wallace and John Swift going in, for instance. I think Steve Bruce can definitely get West Brom back to where they should be, which is competing for top 6 and at least trying to get promoted back to the Premier League. Coming in at my number 3 place is Nathan Jones. I mean, I talked about these managers up there due to getting promotions, but another reason why they're up there is for their overachievements. And I think Nathan Jones, what he's done with Luton Town is incredible. And it's made me forgive him for what of a poor job he did with Stoke. And I feel like Rowett and Jones, you know, for the fact that they really didn't have a great job with Stoke, it's going to take a special manager to get Stoke back to where they should be. To get Luton Town a top 6 place and with them to be only 1 goal away to potentially go into a playoff final is incredible. And the signings he's made as well are fantastic as well. Such great long-term vision there, and I really think the perfect choice for Luton Town. He's been absolutely brilliant. Promotions, taking them from National League to the Championship, only 1 step away from the highest level. Nathan Jones deserves so much credit. Coming in at second place on my list is Dean Smith. Great experience as a championship manager. Has been a championship manager for Brentford, doing pretty well with them, pushing like right up there in terms of the top half of the table. Then with Aston Villa, you know, big expectation with quality of the squad, but he managed to, you know, beat that expectation and get him promoted to the Premier League, and to get Aston Villa, you know, to survive in that Premier League season as well, but then to even get Aston Villa to finish in a really decent finish in around mid-table, and to actually make them look really competitive as well in that period of the table as well. You know, it's quite rare we see championship managers, you know, do really, really well in the Prem, and Dean Smith is one of those ones. Of course, he did get sacked from Aston Villa, sadly. You know, Aston Villa weren't in a relegation zone, you know, they were around 16th, 15th when they sacked him, but this was due to the ownership, you know, changing their expectation a little bit. And I think Dean Smith was a victim to that. Couldn't quite get Norwich to survive in the Premier League, sadly. I don't think he had enough time personally. But I think now back down to the Championship, he's got to be one of the favourites. And, you know, Norwich will be one of the favourites due to what he's done as a manager. But that means number one on my list is Chris Wilder. I mean, I think the resurgence of Sheffield United is the big reason for that. You know, Sheffield United within 2 seasons had 2 promotions from the League One all the way up to the Premier League. That is so incredibly rare. You know, we've seen something a little bit similar with Swansea and Southampton in the past. Swansea, of course, ran out of that luck and got relegated. Southampton somehow still in the Premier League, which is amazing in itself. But I cannot tell you enough, especially with the parachute payments introduced. It's so rare we see a team from League One, but within 2-3 seasons get up to the Premier League. We thought we were going to see that with Barnsley and potentially Luton last year, but it's so difficult now, to reiterate, because of those parachute payments that give these, you know, high quality teams a little bit more of a financial advantage there. So Chris Wilder defied those odds massively and got Sheffield United to finish 9th place in the Premier League as well. I'm sorry, but they deserve a lot of credit for that. I know that Sheffield United were rock bottom the season after and he got sacked afterwards, but you cannot undermine the incredible job he did. And with Middlesbrough as well, actually getting them to improve as much as they did as well. I think Chris Wilder is the best manager in the Championship. So for me, Chris Wilder is number 1 pick. So guys, that is me ranking all Championship managers from worst to best. Let me know what you think of my list in the comments down below. And please guys, give me your list as well. I'll be very interested to read all of them. But that'll wrap it up for today. If you guys enjoyed it, please give the video a like and just to help the channel. Please do hit the subscribe button. It does really help the growth of this channel. Please also share the channel too. All of that helps too. That'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for starting in this video. As always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.